were talking about Alas Babylon. So Mark gets his children and his wife to safety in Fort Repose in Florida, and no sooner have they landed and Mark's brother Randy has collected them from the airport. They'd been there a night, and then the next day war breaks out, and it's the story of how everybody who's left in Fort Repose survives and copes in the aftermath of nuclear war. And we have so many wonderful characters. We have the local telegraph lady called Florence Webcheck, who is just an absolute darling and is very, very sensible and helps Helen to cope with, and she doesn't know what's happened to her husband. And that must be absolutely soul destroying, not knowing where your husband is. Knowing that he worked for the United States Air Force and not knowing where he is. And I'm worrying, deeply, deeply worrying, that he's been killed in war. As have a great deal of Americans and Russians, for that matter. And it's an absolute classic, and as I say, it's probably being taught in most American schools as part of their English literature. It wouldn't have been taught as their English language, it will have been literature. Anyway, it is a truly beautiful book, an absolute classic, and if you haven't read it, please do, because it's also very enlightening. It's probably one of the very best nuclear war novels out there, followed by Neville Shoots on the Beach, which is about nuclear war again, but we are dealing with the inhabitants of Australia who are still alive and obviously living in the southern hemisphere, haven't and were not involved because the war took place in the northern hemisphere. However, the plume of nuclear radiation is ever slowly but irreversibly heading their way, and it is their final summer stroke winter, because it actually happened over Christmas with the war, and it's how they deal with it, knowing that they're all going to die, and they have getting a Morse code message coming through from, thank you for the love hearts, my darlings, and the smiley faces. That's very darling of you, thank you. Anyway, they end up with a Morse code message sent from San Francisco, and it just so happens that right at the beginning of the book there is a gentleman called Dwight, who is the captain of the submarine that seeks refuge in the harbour in Sydney, and as he can't go home because there is no more United States of America, and as is the naval code, if an ally seeks harbour in a shore, then they are able to, take harbour in their harbour. And they find a message sent to them, and they can't quite believe that they've received a message by Morse code. It's absolutely phenomenal. They thought everybody in America was dead. So they decide that they're going to launch a rescue mission and go on the submarine with an Australian captain, the American captain, and the crew, the submarine off on a mercy mission to San Francisco in the vain hope that they're going to actually find survivors. And that's not what happens. It seems that for some reason there is a wire that's been caught by the old-fashioned Morse code key, and the wind has caught it, and ever so often at the same time every single day the wind happens to catch the message. That is the message with what occurred, what's happened, and knowing that there is no more survivors, and it was basically a fool's errand, but they had to do it. They had to go to San Francisco to find out whether or not this was a real message, and were there survivors, and there weren't. And one of the crewmates goes insane and is off the submarine. San Francisco, he wants to go home and find his folks and bury them, and he knows he's now going to be dying of radiation poisoning, and he doesn't have a lot of time because he's exposed himself to it, but he wants to make his peace with God by going home and burying his mum and dad, and then join them, basically. And that's On the Beach by Neville Shute. And if you haven't read that, absolute classic, serious, shall we say, with good reason, regarding the nuclear war and the novels that were coming out at the time. And those two are absolute classics. So if you haven't had the opportunity to read Pat Frank's Alas Babylon and Neville Shute's On the Beach, I recommend them. Playhouse 90 did a TV series of, they were like forerunners of The Outer Limits and The Twilight Zone was Playhouse 90. And there is a copy, although it's never been shown after it was aired in the late 1950s, early 1960s. I believe it starred Burt Reynolds, and they did a TV sort of episode based on Alas Babylon. It's only ever been shown one other time, and that was at the UCLA University, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it was that university. And they did it as part of the film. Unless the rights are released for Alas Babylon, the television TV episode for Playhouse 90 is ever released or given permission to be aired, we're not going to get to see it. But that's the only, Playhouse 90 is the only place I've known that's done a television episode for, and it was Alas Babylon. I think it must have just been such a harrowing episode that they couldn't show it again. But anyway, it starred the late, great Burt Reynolds. In case you were interested. See, them. And one of them was called Brother in the Land by Robert Swindell. I have done extensive reviews on Alas Babylon, On the Beach, and Brother in the Land. Now, the one reason I like Brother in the Land is because it's set in Yorkshire. Not from where I live, called Skipton. And in the book, it's referred to as Skipdale. And it deals with the major city called Bradford. And it's the United Kingdom has been hit, obviously. We've been annihilated, and it's the tale of two brothers as they fight to survive in very hostile environments. Their father happens to be the local shopkeeper, and what's left of the non-functioning authoritarian figures they believe that they should have power over everything, including the food, the water, and the air that we're breathing, which is highly irradiated, may I say. I'm actually amazed there was anybody left that would be able to fight over anything anyway. And it covers the lives of the survivors and the way that they get treated by the authorities. And these two brothers, God bless them, there's an older brother and a younger brother, and needless to say, the older brother has to watch the demand, and he can't, and it's so sad, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. If you want to, you can definitely check out my review on Brother in the Land. It is a classic. It's a children's book, believe it or not. It's an actual children's book. We must have been made of strong stuff in the 90s. I mean, in the 80s, sorry. To be made of stuff, because that was a children's book, and quite frankly, it's quite harrowing. It's a very harrowing book. So yeah, you would enjoy that. And another one that I did regarding nuclear war was Children of the Dust by Louise Lawrence. Again, another children's book to the children reading it. Obviously, it is aimed at children. The horrors of nuclear war. And again, I've done an extensive review on Children of the Dust, and I'm sure you will enjoy that. That's in one of our long form videos, so hopefully check that out. If you're interested in nuclear war, those are excellent choices. Going back towards more grown up, we have Down to a Sunless Sea, which deals with an alternate reality universe where King Charles marries a very glamorous American socialite, for starters. And we are going through an economic demise, as are the Americans, and we end up going to war and getting bombed, which is most unfortunate. And we are dealing with a flight which was on the way from New York to London, flown by Captain Jonah Scott, and his desperate attempt off is voluntary, landing is mandatory. You don't get a lot of choice. What goes up must definitely come down, and down it will, hopefully on a landing strip or something flat choice. And it's the survival of everybody that's on this flight. So looking for safe harbor. An American is a Russian Antonov airplane which has the remaining survivors of the Russian people, and they are also looking for somewhere to land, as are many other airplanes. And it's the fight for the survival, and it's called Down to a Sunless Sea, and it's about the survival of all these people and where they end up. Again, an extensive review on Down to a Sunless Sea. If you are interested and want to know more, there is a video regarding that as well in our long form collection. We have over 2,200 videos, short, with a bit of luck. And I quite like reading about things like that, end of the world, disasters, things that really make you want to go, ooh, gosh, that's a bit, isn't that? And considering the times we live in now, indeed. Yes, what a time to be alive. If you like pandemic, oh, back again, sorry about that. It's just going to be bouncing up and down at the moment, unfortunately. The internet, we are going to get there. I know that gentleman outside is doing a sterling job, and it's a brand new system that he's having to put in. And it's not his fault, it's the people, the Virgin cable doodly people that went through everything, and it's like, why? Why would you do that? But they did. Is watching all of you. I bet Lucy's watching you all as well. And if you don't know who Lucy is, you should do. You should be absolutely terrified. And if you read Alan's books, Alan Aspinall, and his Fading Light series, you will get to find out who Lucy is. And Lucy is absolutely terrifying. And she's always what it seems a shame to keep him in. So he's off having an adventure of a lifetime, and he's playing in the garden. And as soon as I'm through the ironing, I will be going out to find my little Monty and ask him, has he had enough of playtime, and does he want to come in? Because believe it or not, Monty is one of those very intelligent cats that does understand you, and he does talk. Although he doesn't really meow. He chirrup, which is an unusual thing. It's perfectly normal for a Norwegian forest cat. All the time with Monty. I've never I've never known a cat quite like him. And I say he's only young, he's only 17 months old. He's a rescue and he's absolutely gorgeous. And if you want to, we have some short videos of right from the beginning.